I can get into the wood pretty good.
I got the
Kid I
song
grew up with,
somewhere.
he just brought a new forwarder.
Yeah.
He had one, it was nice, but he got another one, 6-wheel forwarder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Is it Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His mother called me one day and says, Evan is at the 4-H camp cutting big trees.
So we know we're gonna stop the meeting, it's being recorded, so I have
Yeah.
the recorder on, so
Right, so. All
I
right,
just wanted to let you know.
Board of Health meeting, it is 6 o'clock, August 21st, 2018. On the agenda tonight, we have, for ongoing business, Flint Road landfill, where we'll also be discussing the mowing contract. We have 4 bids for that, so that'll be first up on business. We also have ongoing H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, Eleanor Lane, if there's anything new on that. And we have Burlingame Road water testing continuing to discuss. We do have Gary Magnuson here from CMG. Also, I should probably say Jim Philbrook, Kathleen Walker, Matt Gagner, and myself are here. New business, we have a gentleman stopping in, Mr. Jones, to talk about the risks of natural gas. And then we'll have department head reports. And I think that's it for tonight's agenda. Minutes have been signed from last meeting. And there's a few other things. I think you're all set, Kathleen.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we might as well just get right into the Flint Road landfill. Should we start? We've got 2 folks here in the audience that that do have one of the bids for the mowing. Can we go ahead and open these?
Sounds good.
All right. We'll keep that one. You know what? This has got the paperwork with it, so let's go ahead and.
We can put that back in there if you want. The liability insurance came in later, so
Oh, all
Andrew
right.
didn't want to open it back up.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. You want to open one, or do you want to just open them one at a time?
Have at it.
Have at it. Hopefully I won't rip anything. I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to.
You got a device right there.
Look at you.
High tech.
I feel like Johnny Carson. All right. First estimate is from BCB Lawn Services, Charlton, Massachusetts. Flint Road, cut brush to test wells, clean up 90 Flint Road, and clean up patching bald spots, cover line with loam reseeding. I'm assuming that this will cover everything. All these people who bid on this got all the stipulations.
They
in it.
did.
I don't think they did.
Maybe one of them came in early. Some people came in and asked for them. Some people just brought a bid in, so.
I think we gotta just be clear when we're bidding that we keep them apples to apples, because I
Yeah.
think this particular person, we talked and we said, listen, this is what we gotta do, and it was, talked about the scalping and all that, and cutting a 54 Flint Road, but I don't believe we discussed that at the last meeting and put that in our paperwork.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to see what our paperwork says, but I believe it's strictly mowing of 90 Flint Road.
Right, that's what I was gonna bring up, actually.
Yeah.
But that's okay, it's delineated here quite easily.
Yeah.
The cleanup for 54 Flint Road is $800, everything else is separate. If you include the $800 for 54 Flint Road, the total comes to $9,260. And this again is just for one mowing, correct?
Yeah.
One mowing to be done between now and October 15th, is that right?
I think that's correct.
I think about October 15th. So there's the first one. Do you want to take a look at that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one. Thank you, Gary. CCL Landscaping, Charlton, Massachusetts. Mowing of landfill per July 2018 specs, quantity 8,800. And that's pretty much what it says. So there's that one. I don't know if we can keep all the envelopes together or not. bids. This next one is from Lawns R Us Plus out of Charlton Depot. Just the insurance. Charlton landfill 2018, mow entire landfill, weed whack areas as needed. $6,790 for that one. You recording all these?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Snows, is that you? Okay. Final, this is the fourth and final bid that, this is,
There's
oh, I'm
another
sorry. Gosh, I thought this was paperwork. All right, fourth of five from KMZ Snow out of Spencer. You list your equipment as well, insurance requirements attached. Total bid price $5,500. And certificate of liability insurance is here. Very good. All right.
Did you put these in order because they're going down progressively?
Did I know? I can assure you.
There's no way you could have. Just curious.
That is a big envelope. All right. So here's the, did we see this before? Is this a copy of what we've had? Because
No,
I-
that's what was presented by one of the bidders.
We didn't open the
Okay.
bid,
We didn't open the bid.
we
We
looked
have
at the, we looked at that, but
That,
we never
that's
opened
correct.
the bid.
And we
Yeah,
stopped.
That's right, thank you very much. Now I recollect, it's been several weeks. Okay, so this is the aerial shot of the landfill. It's pretty good. The final bid comes in from Steep Slope Mowing, Contract Mowing Services out of Stores, Connecticut. Says Lawns by Marcus Hilditch LLC out of Stores, Connecticut. So it's one of the two, maybe it just goes by Steep Slope Mowing. Okay, anyway. This is kind of a letter of introduction stating what they've done, including airports and the town of Waterford, Connecticut sites. Mowing of 90 Flint Road landfill, quote for landfill maintenance, annual cutting and handwork of the capped landfill. $4,625. However, right after that, it says repair of exposed landfill liner cover on top of berm. And the person goes on to say, I could only locate one due to the height of the grass, but was told by Mr. Philbrook there are two areas. Repairs will have to be done manually to avoid any further damage to both areas. Cost to repair both areas total $350. So I'm assuming that is in addition to the $46.25, bringing the total to $4,975. Let me just make sure there's nothing else here.
Mr. Chairman, I
Reference.
believe those are the two spots that Gary indicated were bare.
Yes. Was it just the two?
He indicated one to me.
Well, we had asked to include the 2017 annual inspection, which I don't think we did, which had the photos of them. There's about 5 or 6 areas. There's 2 moderately large, half the size of this table,
Right.
and the other ones
Yeah.
are the size of a chair.
But so in total, you're talking, total area is probably not more than twice the size of this table here.
Not at all,
So not much at all.
but,
Okay.
but not easy to do.
No, because you have to go up. There's a photo of one
Yeah, yeah.
of the exposed liners areas. This must be their photo, I take it.
That looks like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he asked to visit the landfill, he came in.
All right, so this one has, it comes with a copy of, I'm assuming it's all the same information here. So let's go ahead and open this up for discussion.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to clarify, on the steep slopes, they did an additional fixing of the scalping work for $350, but the base bid for the mowing was $46.25.
Correct?
And so to keep the apples with the apples, I think we just consider the $46.25 for that, for their number.
Okay,
Then we have the snows at $5,500. We have the lawns are us $69.70. We have clean cut lawns at $8,800, and then the BBC estimate as well funded additional work in there. But when you add up the actual cutting of the grass, it came to $7,500. So I don't think we should include in his quote the cleanup of 54 Flint Road, because it's not apples to apples, and the patching of the bald spots either. So if we eliminate those two and go for the grass cutting, his quote is $7,500.
okay.
So that's, I believe, apples to apples. We're at $46.25, $5,500, $67.90, $8,800, and $7,500.
Okay. There's a bit of a discrepancy here where, I mean, we're about 50% off from low to high, and I just want to be sure that whoever gets the bid, before we award it, that they're aware that, there were certain stipulations in the contract. I'm assuming if they've all got it, I'm fine with it, but it just seems like it's
Andrew usually handed out something
Okay.
with it on it, but like Matt said, I didn't have anything to do with it, I'll be honest. I didn't open anything, I didn't look at anything. I spoke to a couple people that came in and said, it's up to you to put the bid in as you see it,
Did any of them ask you to go up there with them?
One gentleman did, but I couldn't, I had an appointment.
That was this guy?
He's the one, yeah, he came in quite a while ago, but he just went to Earth Google and did that. And he did do a walkthrough of the landfill.
So, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
to comment on your concern, I believe we should go with the lowest bidder and have a walkthrough prior to them doing any work, so they're fully aware of what is involved. And if they say that's not what they bargained for, tell us before you start one engine, and then we can go to the next bid.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
I agree.
Because we've had people, like Matt said, get awarded the contract and then a week later say, it's not what I thought, like you said, and then all of a sudden we're stuck,
That's what happened the first time around.
first time around. Yep.
Right.
So,
So this would have to happen relatively quick, because we're talking
Yeah.
6 to 7
Next-
weeks between
Within the next week.
today and when it would have to be done.
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever you decide, it's your decision, you three.
No, I agree. I do have a question. The last contract that we awarded, there were 3 bids. Does that sound right?
the last one we awarded,
Do you remember?
I believe the last one we awarded, I would say there was 3 bids on that.
Okay, but they were relatively close in price comparison?
The first time we got bids, it was all over the board.
Okay.
Like tens of thousands of dollars off.
Oh.
Tens of thousands.
All right.
It was.
It was,
So this, I just thought that there was, the
These
last
bids-
time it seemed like it was closer.
these bids, in my opinion, they seem to be all on target.
Okay,
Depending on your equipment, you might, the most highest bid as we have it here, might not have the equipment as the lowest bid, and it comes down to equipment.
right.
If you got a machine that can handle the slope and you can shave off a day or two, it's a big deal.
Right. Kathleen, did you want to see any of this? Any of the
No,
bids?
I'm good. I don't think there's that much of a discrepancy.
Okay.
In fact, 2 of them are fairly close, but, actually, 2 of them,
They're all
2 of the
pretty
highest
close.
ones are close, and the 2 of the lowest ones are fairly close, and then there's one in the middle, so it's just, a few $1,000s between the lowest and the highest. So, it seems reasonable to me, but I completely agree that we should do a walkthrough right away within a week and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
I like the idea myself. 1 week sounds appropriate.
Mhm.
Okay.
If we can
Jim,
pull it
is
off.
is it something you could do? Or
I
does
can-
Gary have to go out, or?
I don't think you're gonna pay the principal of CMG to go out. I'm just gonna, he's gonna do the inspections after they're done
Right,
as the board
yes.
decided.
Yeah,
But
put
if
them
you just
all
want
out.
me to accompany them, I mean, I'll just go by there. I mean,
Take your ticks,
they're on
right?
town property, but it's loaded with ticks, so I
Yeah.
just want people to know that, be prepared.
Yes.
I'm not gonna be going dressed like this, that's for
No.
sure.
No.
At least you've got
If I'm
long
around, I'll
sleeves.
go, it's no big deal.
Well, I will have long sleeves and
If
white
I'm
shirt.
around, I can do it. It's
Whatever, if
half
you-
an hour time, it's an
Yeah.
hour time, I'll do it.
I mean, whatever the board decides, but we should have someone definitely know if they have not walked it and put a bid in, that they're in, you know, this is not your typical mowing. And if you don't have proper equipment, we don't want someone up there hacking away, and we need to make sure they use best practices.
In my opinion, if Gary is able to do it, since he's the one that's inspecting it, it would make sense to me that he would be the one that shows him what he's looking for.
Yes, okay.
That's
I'll
my
second it.
opinion.
Yeah.
Can I second that?
Yeah.
If you have an email, just, why don't you send an email for the whoever you award it to, CC me on it.
Sure.
Tell them to get in touch with me and I'll make a time to meet with them and we'll take
But
care
you
of
could
it.
better explain, you know, where the
can
wells
show
are
you.
to be careful and stuff like that, so it does make sense to, you know, that there's a good explanation by a qualified person to explain to them that when you're doing this, you're responsible to make sure you're not gonna, you know, did we look at their liability insurance too, to make sure that they have enough before
Yeah.
you admit the bid? I mean, if someone has only 500,000, and certainly something happens.
That's a copy. This is the,
Like here,
500,000.
He's got $1.5 million.
yeah, he's got, this one is,
That's high.
that's high. He's got about 5 million. On this one, I don't know who this is. Hilditch, is that this one?
Yes, yeah.
That's one,
That's, you wanna keep it all together?
we should for
We
records.
probably should, all right.
Question, and put it in order. If the first one doesn't go, the next one you feel is, so if you put it in order,
Yeah,
or, you know, you could state who wins the bid and then who would be secondary to the bid
Okay.
in case something falls through. I mean, just for the record.
I get the envelopes mixed up.
we'll hold that against you.
What is that?
So is there any more discussion on awarding the bid as,
Did we check the liability insurance?
You just did.
All of them? Okay, good.
Oh, you just checked it on.
I'd
the-
only checked one, I just wanted to make sure that they have adequate coverage. If you're gonna award someone,
You checked the lowest bidder that we were gonna award it to, right?
you should check the liability, the top two, or,
The number, second bidder's got plenty of insurance
Okay.
as well.
so with the stipulation that if steep slope mowing comes out, that they do agree with a site visit with Gary Magnuson from CMG. If they're good with all that, they can start the work.
Yeah.
If not, we'll be calling the second bidders.
and who is the second bidder for the record?
Snows,
Okay.
Second
Just so
bidder.
Andrea could, you know, make a documentation in
right.
the record.
And again, I think I'd like to try to stick to 1 week so that just in case the low bidder does not come through, we can then move on to the second bid.
All right, so if he can't comply with a 1 week walkthrough, then you would go to the second bidder. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
What do you want to do?
I mean,
End of
in
next
my
week?
mind, there's probably a little bit of leeway, but
It depends, I mean, if he's got a good reason, I mean, if he's in the hospital or something, I don't know, but,
Right.
you know, but we should certainly try to do it within a week. But I
Say
don't
we
think- there's
target
nothing
for
in
a
the
week, and
contract that
if he
says
can't,
we-
what, I would say
Yeah.
we just put a 2-week maximum on it or something.
Yeah.
And I'll let,
August
Prices are
31st, looking at the
cruise or
calendar right
something.
there.
Yeah. If they can't come out and meet the timeline by the August 31st to do the site work.
It's 2.5 weeks. I mean, it's a week and a half
week and a half.
to do us.
Yeah. And
think
that
that's
still leaves
reasonable.
about 6 weeks for the,
So would you like me to notify him that has won the bid? Is he still?
well, I think we have to make a motion
Yep.
and make it official.
Yep.
Sorry, well, you should make it.
Okay, what's the actual name of, all right, here. I make a motion that we award the contract for the fiscal 2018 mowing to Steep Slope Mowing for the amount of $4,625.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Just have a business card, I want to get the contact information.
Yes,
so I
yeah,
have that as
there's
well.
2, so.
I'll just take it down.
There's that. Any other discussion on that?
Just-
Snows, I do thank you for coming in.
We're available to meet for that meeting.
Okay,
We're right in town, right next door, so if
All
he's
right.
gonna meet with that guy up there and do a walkthrough, we'll be able to
We're
meet
on
up
a
there.
landfill right now in Worcester, so.
okay.
If that's any,
I think that's a great idea.
Oh, do the walkthrough at the same time?
If they're available to do the walkthrough, I
If they're
think that's a
available.
great idea. So if the other company decides they don't wanna do it, we don't have to waste Gary's time again, because they would be, we
That's
would
fine. I mean-
require them.
We can do that.
Good thinking.
Can we bring a mini excavator up there?
Can you?
Yeah.
In limited areas, but yeah.
The
Yeah.
mini.
You're,
Just not
again,
the
you're,
log cap, just a mini excavator. Sorry.
yeah, your response, if you, any damage you do to it, you gotta fix it. Because I have to do the
Yes.
third-party inspection in November. And we did it last year, we know what it looked like, we have photo documented, so as long as it doesn't get damaged,
And you'll
I don't care how, you can mow it with scissors if you want it.
Don't do it with scissors.
But
It'll
no.
be there for a long
Yeah,
time.
be there forever.
Thank you.
So Gary, you have their contact
Yeah, let me,
information? So when, it's in there.
We have.
I'll grab it out of here. So what I'll do is, we'll arrange for the first one, and then I'll give you a call. Thank you.
One of you can probably show up, or both. Thank you for coming in.
thank you.
I think originally we got quotes of 20,000.
Really?
Yeah. And
Was
then
it?
2 mowing, so it was like 40 grand. So we got like,
Wow.
remember that guy?
I don't, yeah.
Was it because it was an unknown or something, or was there woody vegetation or
No.
anything
No,
special?
it was less vegetation than there is now.
Yeah, now there's a lot of vegetation up there.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a lot of work.
It's 17 acres, but not all that needs to be
I
mowed,
think
is
it's
that
9
correct?
acres.
9 acres of mowing?
It's 9 acres of landfill.
Yeah, but that's,
but the
that's,
slope
that's
is-
measured like this. It's like this.
Yeah,
So it's much higher.
that's fine.
Like this.
It's a lot.
We'll
It's not
continue
easy.
on without you, Jim. All right. So anything else about Flint Road landfill?
I have some information for you.
That's good.
So, let me just get,
Yeah, go ahead, take your time.
where's our phone number here? Oops, I don't see one.
Yeah, Andrew was right.
I'll find that later. So Flint Road landfill. 90 Flint Road, nothing to report. We did the testing last quarter. Everything is stable, the same. The report's been submitted to the state. Everything's good. Q3, so July, August, September, that's gonna require a landfill gas monitoring, which is no big deal. And then Q4, the large landfill capped one that we're talking about, 90 Flint Road, requires groundwater monitoring, soil gas testing, the inspection, third-party inspection, everything again. I have to get you guys a proposal for that scope of work. I will do that, get that into you. 54 Flint Road, the sampling is done. It was done, I think when I spoke with you guys last, but we didn't have the data. All the data is very consistent. The contaminant of concern again is 1,4-dioxin. It was detected at low concentrations again in 2 monitoring wells. Number 5, is it S or D? I have to check. 4D, around 0.38. So the standard's 0.3. it's been detected at 0.33, 0.33, 0.38, so pretty consistent. And then the other well that has it is 5D, and that was detected, that was the one that set the whole MCP issue. That was at 0.15 back in 2016, and it's bounced around. It's 1.2 now, so you could argue it's going up. It is going up. 0.15, 0.16, I'm sorry, 0.5, 0.6, 0.56, 1.2, 0.9, and 1.2 again. So it bounces around, but it's around 1. It's consistent more than anything.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Can you just refresh my memory that on the total number of wells that are there at 54 Flint Road, there was one that's no longer operational, is that right?
One had we had issues, it's a shallow well, and it's
Okay.
number 4, and that is up by the road, where, that's the one that years ago, back in 2008, had the detection of TCE, which is one of the contaminants we found in 59 Flint Road. We were able to sample that one this time.
Okay.
No, we weren't. I'm sorry, we did it last time. It had enough water in it. It should have it next quarter when it's done in December.
So that it varies depending on the what, water
Right.
table or?
Yes, it's a very shallow well.
Okay.
It's right on the edge of the road, and yeah, the well's only 17.5 feet deep,
Okay.
and usually there's only about a foot of water in it. Usually like about 8 feet of water in the well normally to get a good sample out of it. But it has been tested a few times, and it only had that contaminant, TC, way back in 2008, and nothing since then in 6 tests. So on the Flint Road landfill, this report normally we would have already submitted to the state, a quarterly report, and say, here's the data, everything's consistent, no worries. As you guys may recall, last time I was here, we talked about the comprehensive site assessment and DEP's audit of that. I've been working with Greg Root at Mass DEP. He has requested clarification of landfill boundaries on the east side on Flint Road. So we talked about doing some test pits, and you guys had approved that in your last scope of work. Working with Jerry and Mark at Charlton DPW, and tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, weather permitting, if it's not raining, we're gonna dig 4 test pits along the road to confirm or evaluate if landfill debris is there. I don't expect to find any. The cable issue that they said they couldn't do the work for last time, Jerry and Mark both had a little understanding of that, and we evaluated it when we were out there. It looks like there may have been a cable in the ground out there years ago, and now it's above ground because it comes, you can actually physically see the cable coming out of the ground. So there apparently is not a cable. DigSafe did not mark it, so we shouldn't have much of an issue. So a few hours of work, we should be able to do that, and then I'll add that data to this report. We'll send this off to Greg Root as a quarterly report plus the status that he had asked for, so DEP can complete their audit. And then that will sit with them for a little bit of time, I expect. If they approve the comprehensive site assessment, again, they had one from 2010. They audited it and they said, we want more data. We gave them some data, and then we said, now we want more data. So we're gonna give them some more data, and they're gonna hopefully say that is approved. Once that gets approved, then we have to do the alternatives analysis of what are we gonna do with the landfill? We're gonna put a cap on it, what? And you guys had approved some funding for that. We're not touching that until after this comprehensive site assessment update gets approved by the state. And if it takes them 6 months, we're not gonna touch that other scope until then. Matt brought up a good point. 54 Flint Road could probably use a little bit of tender loving care, some mowing in there, just to keep it under control. So I don't know how you guys wanna handle that. That's a question for you guys.
Mr. Chairman, when you do your site walk with the mowing contractor, can you get a price from him?
Yeah, I'll ask both of them. I'll walk them to all 5 locations of the wells and just ask them to clear some paths.
And that's what we did last time, right?
Mhm.
There
Yes.
was- Somebody went in and just cleared
Yeah,
paths
and it's
so you could.
very evident what to do. It's not very difficult. When
So-
they're there, it's a half a day's worth of work.
There's no residents there at 54?
No.
No, this is 54 Front Road.
Oh, this is 54, okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be down here. It's just- I
Oh.
grabbed this map isn't final. I just
Okay,
grabbed
so
this.
this is 54 here?
Yep.
Okay.
This
that
is
makes
good.
sense then.
This is your copy, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just grabbed, these weren't final. I just grabbed these so I
You
could
can
give
take
you
this
guys something.
home.
You can
You can have that.
You can have that, that's
Yeah.
for you.
That's, I don't do paper.
So that's essentially what's,
Yeah.
essentially what's going on at 54. We are scheduled to do, related, unrelated, another quarterly round of, or annual round of groundwater monitoring associated with the DEP, the 21E part of the project that we're dealing with Robin Craver on. That is gonna be done next week. And that will be a larger testing radius. Normally, we've done 63, 59, 57, and 55. We had submitted a request to DEP to reduce some of that sampling from quarterly to semi-annual on certain ones. They agreed, but they said every 2 years, they wanted us to grab 47 and 49 or 45.
And these would be outside the current boundary.
They're outside the
testing.
current 500-foot radius of any detections, but they are within that 500-foot radius of the historic detection at that well that's been
Okay.
dry. And DEP said, we want you to check that. So
Mhm.
we will be doing that next week.
Good.
Yeah. So that's the scope, that's mandated by DEP. As far as with being within the 500-foot radius.
Mhm.
Because they looked at the reports and it historically was there. So test for it.
Thank you for keeping us in the good graces of DEP.
We're trying. We're trying. The good news is, you're dealing with a lot of groups here. You're dealing with the landfill group, and you're dealing with the wayside cleanup group, and they've all been very forthright in asking. Like Greg Root's been communicating with me a lot. He's been very reasonable because he asked me months and months and months ago, and I said I don't have approval to do that.
Mhm.
I'll get you all the information I can, and we met out there.
Mhm.
I think DEP is working well with the town and trying to help you get to a logical solution up there.
Good.
So I'm not gonna take all the credit, they've been very helpful. So that's all I have on 54 and,
Mhm.
and 90 Flint Road at this point.
If you want, we can, because Mr. Jordan has stepped out, and
He had to leave.
he did have to leave, so he's not gonna be around. Can we just shuffle this up while we've got you here? And, yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just stay on the Flint Road
Oh, sure.
landfill just a
Sure.
tad more.
Yep.
So we had talked about testing some homes on Burlingame Road.
Right, that's what I was gonna suggest we do, go to Burlingame.
Okay.
Okay.
And, okay, yeah. And so, I think that we should look at a map, the three of us, or including Jim and Gary, the five of us,
Yeah.
and come up with a reasonable plan or a target for which homes we would like to see if they would get tested. And then maybe come up with a plan, to try and get them tested, and maybe set some type of a plan in place for next year and the year after. So we had potentially talked about maybe doing every third house or so, and picking, I think, 3 houses. So that would give us, if we went with 9 houses, we could do one year, skip 2, 1, skip 2. So in theory, wherever you lived, you either got tested this year, or the neighbor left or right if you got tested. So it would be
Makes sense.
Would cover that 500-foot radius too.
yeah.
So if there was anything, you'd have to go 500 feet anyway. So if you tested the next one, you're actually covering a big area.
And I know Gary has information in the past where we tested 10 or 12 years ago, which houses we tested at that point. I think that may be a good start.
Was there any criteria for the homes that were tested, or was it just first come, first served? Yes, we'll get to
Some of the
this.
residents, I don't know, just to, so you didn't forget, they saw the newspaper
Yeah,
and decided to come in with
That's
some
good.
letters, but
So-
I just want to make sure you
yeah,
did
no,
receive
we'll
them.
get to that here in just a minute. I'm just thinking, obviously, this is all pretty much downslope, right?
Yeah.
The wells, how many total were tested about
So
10
last-
years ago?
The notes I have is number 129, number 131, number 135, 137, 143, and 147. I think I marked them on the well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're marked.
So,
So-
and the reason I believe, and I didn't select, I think I helped make that selection back then. This map doesn't do anything for topography, but these other ones do that I didn't start very well. Basically, those are the lowest wells. There's a valley running through there, and there's a
Okay.
stream running through there. That's kind of where the wetland discharges. So that area, while it may seem a little bit further southerly from the corner of the landfill, you know, some of these over here, it's in the low spot.
Path of least resistance.
This is kind of at the bottom of the knoll
Yeah.
coming back out.
As well as it looks like it's the closest to the monitoring wells that had hits of the 1-4.
And so the
True.
testing done back then did include, we did test for VOCs, volatile organic compounds, but the 1,4 dioxin would have had a detection limit of either 30 or 3 back then, not 0.3. So that testing back then was a full potability test to make sure their wells were potable, just like if I built a new house in town and wanted to come in. So it's up to you guys what you test for. I think your concern is 1,4 dioxin and VOCs. We did get into a little bit of a problem with 1 or 2 wells that had bacteria detections, and then we had to retest. And you know, a shallow dug well has nothing to do with the landfill, and so I don't recommend testing for coliform bacteria or bacteria in those homes at this point.
I agree with you.
If your concern is
It
landfill
wouldn't be-
contaminants,
It
let's.
would not be the landfill. So these are the ones, these 2, 4, you said you have.
I have results from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 129, 131, 135, 137, 143, and 147.
All right, so
And
2,
those are
4,
the old
6.
results.
Those are the old results from,
Well,
and
I'd
that work
rather
was.
get the old results.
Those would be the old results from the old landfill, not the old landfill.
Right.
And those were all done in March and April of 2008.
Mr. Chairman
Yes.
and Kathleen, I think, knowing that we started here in the past and kind of went that way, I think we should do like a number system and maybe just start here and go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then the ones get it this year, or at least we ask the ones if they want to do it this year, and if they say no, then we move on to the 2 or whatnot. But
Where were you saying to start?
Well, this is where we
At the
started
bottom.
at the last time. I
Okay.
just picked an end.
So you'd start
147.
the same way, the same place?
You start
And
there.
do every third house?
And go 1, 2, yeah, so we would basically start off by numbering the houses. You'd either
Right.
be a 1, a 2, or a 3. And then in the first year, the ones would get sampled, the second year, the 2s and so on.
Right, okay.
I'm just throwing it out there, but that seems to be how they were doing it up on Berry Corner and H Foot Road.
I believe that was the protocol they used.
It makes the most sense, certainly.
So how many are you talking about?
We talked about doing 3 houses this year.
Because of the cost, and I think this was broached with the Board of Selectmen and Robin, or?
I did meet with Robin on it. She
Okay.
said, well, you know, you have to have funding, but I think
Right.
we have, like Matt said, it's Flint Road testing. So let's just say we're doing Flint Road testing of the landfill, which it is. We're trying to protect that circumference. Although it's on Burlingame, the landfill is on Flint. So I think we have money in there for testing. If we need additional funding, then I'd have to go in October. It's just that if there's a line items for everything. So if we
Yes.
submit something,
Right.
and it has to be, this is Flint Road testing, and we do have a line item for that.
Okay, so that makes sense.
If you ask me, I mean, I think this board, along with Jim and Gary, I mean, we've been very cautious with the eye on the dollar. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not overspending by any means. It's bare bones, but it's gonna give us an idea of what's going on down there.
And doing your due diligence, as you did 8 years ago, and it's time to do it again.
Yeah.
So is 3 houses enough?
It's certainly a start, I think.
I think if we got
They're
hits,
the most likely.
like you
If
said,
if
Gary.
you get a detection,
We tested more than
I
3.
know,
You
yeah,
get a
but
detection.
I mean, is
We
3
get a
houses
detection,
enough
we're
to
gonna
start
be
with?
meeting more than every 3 or 4 weeks.
But is 3 houses enough to start with? It's, what is it, $200 or $300 a house?
It's more than
That was
that.
about 800.
About 800 to 1,000. You think, because then you're covering all this, all that, and all that with the 3 houses.
With the 3 houses, it's it's kind of a geographic location, we're kind of testing X amount. We're basically taking the whole area that was tested in the past and getting three samples out of the
So you'd
area.
start with 147?
I would,
If they'll allow it, sure.
if they would allow.
And then
And then-
137.
137,
Mm,
129, that would be it for the first year,
there's 3.
if they are willing to do it at the town's cost.
And I think, Gary, maybe steer me in the direction, but, so, there's a piece, if you look at the map that Gary has presented for us, you can see there's a larger back piece of land, somebody has a, so it would be a matter of where is their well if there's one on site, because this is the
There's
closest.
no house, though.
Thought there was a
So
discussion
the
about a
big
well.
parcel, this big parcel
here.
has a house up here. It's 50,
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry.
on this one, it's 81 Burlingame. And actually, on
There's
this
the
map,
options.
this is the same parcel. That's the house, that's the barn. So this sits like
Getting all-
myself here.
It's the chain.
No, come
47.
backwards.
This-
Come backwards. Come
All
down
this?
to,
This?
yep, like that.
Okay.
This big parcel here, this is 81.
Makes
I
sense.
that the
think
one
we're
you're talking about?
talking about,
This-
I
this
think
one
we're
right
talking
here.
about this one
This
right
house
here.
is,
Okay.
80,
Well, here's
Houses
the
on this
quick
side.
and quick radius from those wells. He's way out. There's
I'm
500
not sure
feet.
where his well is.
but where's the
We can
well?
look it up if we have records, we can.
But we
I
would,
think Gary's looking at it
I
right
just,
now.
if,
yeah,
so far we've identified 8 properties, and if we were gonna do a 9th property, even if it was in the
we
third
wanna go
year,
to 85.
I would, since this one is closer, but doesn't look like there's a dwelling on it, I would think this would be the target for
So
that last
number
property.
85.
What number is that?
Number 85
is this one right here.
And this shows where the house is, correct?
Yeah.
There's the house, there's the barn.
Yeah, so the well is
500 feet is,
is
oh, you're
500
right.
feet from the house. The house is 1,000 feet away from the last well that has any contamination.
But so are these other houses as
Right.
well.
Yeah, they're more than 1,000 feet.
Just for, if we allocated, if we were gonna do like a 9-house program, I would think that may be the one that we'd consider for the 9th house.
It's fine with me.
It's
And-
okay with me.
And there's no saying, I mean, if we do the 1, 2, 3 program and there's no hits,
People are always able to test it themselves if they want to.
They are, but I think for the most part, most folks are not probably inclined to do it. I can't imagine how many of the folks down there within a couple thousand feet or 1,000 feet have put money out for testing, especially to the degree that we're talking about
yeah.
with 1,4-dioxane and VOCs.
So that's a discussion too. I know, and John Jordan had made a comment last time, which I personally have no problem with. I think he referenced Premier Labs or Microvac. They'll come out and actually do the sample, and they've got a reduced price. It will be less than I can do it for. They're a certified lab. I have no problem with that. They can come out, do the sample, and give me the data.
I think, too, just, thinking it through is we approach, say, the ones this year and ask them, hey, what's your well testing program been? Because if they go, hey, we do it every 2 years, here's my results, then we know.
Yeah. I mean, some people do test their wells.
I do.
I
do.
tell people,
Just fine.
I tell people you should do it on a regular basis, depending on where you live.
Okay, yeah, right.
So if
We
some.
can save money or skip over them
Yeah.
and do maybe 2 down or 1 down
Yeah.
from them, or go whatever.
Yeah.
Expand it further up than 147 and further down than either 107 or 89 or I don't know what. Well, that's 127.
So I would suggest the first question is, can we test your well and do you do it yourself? Can we see your results?
So this would be a proposal where we would send I hate to call it a form letter, but a letter of an intent from this board
Yeah,
that would say,
That's how we did it last time. We just sent a letter.
okay,
Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith, CMG, at the request of the Board of Health, is request approval to sample you well. Please contact us at this number to arrange it. And you guys, again, in an effort, I fully understand the monetary aspect of it. If Jim's staff can put the letter together, send the letter, make a phone call, arrange it, and if you guys wanna have Mike go back, do it directly, because they'll come out, they have guys that all they do is go around and test drinking water wells. They just put it on their little protocol in their system, and it may be cheaper. John Jordan had the contact information for that. I don't want us to do it, I'll gladly do it. But if someone can do it cheaper, and I can provide the technical expertise if there's a problem, I'll provide the service where I think I'm of best use to you. It's up to you guys.
sounds fair to me.
yep.
Kathleen?
Yeah, I guess I'm not terribly concerned about the money, because I don't think that's our role, simply because of that. But, at the same time, I don't wanna waste money.
Captain, if it was somebody, you know, a kid out there sampling inappropriately in a, you know, they're a very good qualified lab. They've got techs that all they do is go sample drinking water wells, and they do, you know, 15 of them a day, so they're very efficient, and their lab is good. So I don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't recommend it. John Jordan had recommended it. I'm just kind of supporting his recommendation because I think you guys can save some money that way.
Okay. So I guess the first thing is to get the letter drawn up, if we don't already have one, that says,
We already have it.
we do, okay.
Pretty sure
good.
Andrea already got it ready.
All right, good,
Should probably email it to the board to make sure it's okay.
okay.
If she didn't already, to make sure you're okay with the
Yeah,
letters.
I don't think I've seen it.
But if not, we'll get it done right away.
Okay.
It's not gonna take that long.
All right.
So you just have to let us, I'm sorry I stepped away, I had to get a letter.
No, that's fine.
The ones that you want us to send letters to, we'll just, you know, for the record, say it on there.
We should,
You're gonna label them 1, 2, and 3, like Gary suggested, Matt, and then, or you suggested, and then we'll go call the ones first.
I'm good with that, if that's what the board
Yeah.
wants to do, sure.
I'm
fine with
okay
me.
with that. So tonight, then, we will target three residences. And if for some reason they do not respond, or they respond in the negative, we go to the next one,
Yep.
right? That just makes sense.
Yep.
So we're talking about
So it's
147.
147,
137.
137, and Matt, you said
No, then, this one.
this one, 129.
29.
Okay.
And all of those were sampled last time, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
And if it's the same folks, I don't think that we'll have any issue,
But
especially if there's no
And
no
they-
money
and
out of their
as long
pocket.
as we ask them, they may be sampling on a regular basis, since we did it the last time. It may raise their consciousness to think about sampling.
Okay. If we have other folks who have been asking, I'm assuming, Jim, you can respond and just say, you know, we picked
Yeah.
Well, we do
that
have
the board
one,
has discussed,
but
and
it's
we've, at this time, we won't be testing your well, but.
Well, there was a newspaper article which really got people's.
Well, I certainly saw it, yeah.
So
Yeah.
people thought you were asking for volunteers.
And yes, well, kind of we are.
We are, but they kind of took it wrong where you're gonna be
Right,
asking them
yeah.
if they were okay for you to test. So some people stepped up and said, hey, you know, we'd be volunteering, live in Burlingame Roads. But I think you're out of the area where your concern is, like Gary said, you wanna really test for the, you know, the probability if there is contamination would be the lowest level in that wetland area, so.
Correct. All right, so we have 3 residences on Burlingame Road that have been identified. We'll send out a letter to those folks, and, or would you want to just call?
We'll send a letter to all the board members and see if you wanna make any changes or additions or deletions. And I'll send it to Gary too, and he can look at it. But we're also, when it's ready to send out, we'll make sure that you're okay for us to send it, and I'll sign it and send it out on behalf of the board.
So assuming this moves relatively quickly, assuming all 3 of these residences come back right away within a week or so, do we need anything to get the ball rolling before? I mean, there's no rush, but
Do you want us to sample, or do you want Mike or Becker to do it? I don't care.
Not ETR labs.
Not ETR.
no, correct. Do we
It's up
have-
to the board. I mean, Gary seems to be the one handling the landfill. I think it would be, you know, it's up to the board. We want someone, I think, yeah.
Well, Gary's recommendation was to use Microbeck.
John Jordan made the recommendation
Yeah,
at the
I-
last meeting, and I don't have a problem with that recommendation. They're a good lab.
He said they're a little bit cheaper.
It will be cheaper than I can do it.
I don't know how much cheaper, I don't know.
Not a lot, but it's up to you guys.
And it's up to me, it's up to these three elected
Well,
officials.
I guess the question is how much? If we're talking $100 or less per test, but by the time you get done getting the report from them and so forth, where you already know the area, I don't know.
The devil you know.
And unless you're coming to us and saying, I am up to here with work, I'm falling behind, and
We can get the work done. I am using, right now, I'm comfortable with Alpha Analytical to do the 1,4-dioxin test. And that test is, it's like $240 just for that one test.
Yeah.
And the VOC test, I'm using Spectrum at about $100. So you're, you know, $350 just for the lab.
okay.
A couple hours of labor to do it is another, you know, $180. So $450, you know, you're $550
Per
minimum.
house.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to, we don't have to write the letter, but.
It's a lot less than 1,000.
Yeah, it's well within our budget.
Yeah, but, you know, then, you know, we need a couple $100 at the end to do a letter report and send things out, which I would do for you anyways, because
Mhm.
all that Microbeck's gonna do is send you the data.
Right.
So, it's your call, I'm just.
Well, I would make a motion that we have Gary do it because we have a good relationship with him, we know him, it's easier. It's very reliable, or we wouldn't have been using him all these years. And so it doesn't sound like it's gonna be a significant amount of money difference. And, for the reliability, for the trust that we have in him and his knowledge, I
agree.
just as soon use him.
I second that motion.
Yep. All right, so I think we are agreed. You will do the testing if you are so able.
You wanna vote?
You are able, good.
Wanna vote on that?
Yeah. We have a motion to allow CMG and in this case Gary Magnuson to go on out and do the sample testing of 3 houses, 3 residences on Burlingame Road at the expense of the town, yes.
Before you vote, Mr. Chairman, do you want us to facilitate the letter, or is it being sent out by Gary? What do you want to do about that?
I would think.
Okay,
I would
just to
think
make.
from
I'll
you.
review it, I'd rather have it come from you.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I was
And
asking.
I don't know if you want to just say.
Contact us.
You know, put Gary's name on there just so.
I'll have Gary
whatever's-
review it. When he's ready with it, then I'll
Yeah.
send it to the board to make sure you're
Okay.
okay with it. That way, I believe that Kathleen is right. You're better off handling someone, because there's always been a question, even with the residents, do they trust the people testing their water under best practices? And I think we trust Gary, and I don't care what amount the money is, it's not,
Well, yeah, and
it's
even
really
going
not that much
forward.
different. And I think it's the right decision.
Yep, and if we have questions down the road, Gary's here every month.
Like you said, he's gonna have to send out the letter anyway after,
Yeah.
he's gonna have to
Send the
review it.
results, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
we're better off just, we'll have to wait for Matt to vote now, sorry.
Yeah. I think I know how he's gonna vote. Okay. This is a good map, though, I do like it. This has been around.
Could you possibly send that to the board members and myself via email, or is that not possible?
So I can, that's why it's not so good, because my
Okay.
computer
Well,
halfway
I know we
blew
like
up
to be
about
green
4:15
here,
this
so-
afternoon, and
Oh.
I had, that's why it's,
So you're using a PC and not a Mac, right?
I hate Macs. I can't even turn my wife's on. It drives me insane.
I hate PCs.
She gives me a computer, I can't do anything with it. It kills me. I'm just
You
so.
love 'em or you hate 'em?
Yeah,
I can't use Mac, I'm sorry.
I want to.
I'm not gonna weigh in, because my son might.
I have one, I
Well,
can't
I
turn
think
it on.
I think Macs are
likes
very
Macs.
intuitive, and I think that it's probably, women tend to be more intuitive, don't
I agree, I
I'm not even.
I agree. Because it's not intuitive to me. Come on, Matt.
That was a loaded question.
they?
Help us, we're hanging.
I can't help it.
He's out there talking. Let's see. there anything else? While we're talking this, and Matt doesn't have to be here for this, how many people, Jim, you said some people did contact this board about well testing. Do you have a rough number?
Just 2 or 3. I think it was
Okay.
2 or 3. But Andrea sort of, they called her and she explained that, because that article came out, which we printed, they thought they were looking for volunteers. We're gonna be
Right.
asking them to volunteer, but we're looking for volunteers in Burlingame.
In
You know,
specific locales.
Specific locales only, but, okay.
All right. Matt's back. Okay, so. do we-
You have a motion and a second?
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Kathleen?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
I can send you that back.
Okay.
Gary's gonna
Once
send
my
a
computer just
soft copy of
rethinks
this.
itself tonight and starts up fresh in the morning with a clear head.
Works out good too. If there's a problem, Gary, you can call us.
Yep.
And we're on the horn with Gary, and it's like, hey, you're not gonna believe this, but it's clean again, and then we'll, you know, we don't have to wait for the lab either. We have
I'll
that
take-
line of communication.
Yeah. I just wanted to offer that savings, that's all.
Oh, we appreciate that.
All right. Anything else on Burlingame Road? No. H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, Eleanor Lane. Lines are not here tonight. I'm surprised.
Yep, I did attend a meeting, Tuesday, August 14th. We have the group meeting for the construction update, and I don't know if I forwarded to you, but I didn't make the, one of the meetings, and I got volunteered to, of course, with a task, so I had to determine which trash companies to notify and let Level Construction, because there's a problem with, we have buses we have to get by, we have trash trucks to get by, mail, all that, so they're trying to keep the road open, but Level Construction is moving along quickly. The recent work was 5,500 feet of LF of 8-inch DI water main in Berry Corner Road.
It's a mile.
5,580 feet, that's good.
They did T valves and H-foot road water main connections, 6 hydrants, 23 1-inch service corporations, 120 LF of 12-inch HDPE drain, and 40 LF of 8-inch HDPE drain, 415 CY rock removal. I guess it's pretty soft right now, but they anticipate when they turn on to H-foot road that it's going to change.
But that's what they've installed so far.
Yes,
Now, what about the road above that? Is that just a temporary patch?
that's temporary.
Okay.
Yep. That's
How is it?
temporary.
Has anybody been out there? Have you heard any reports?
Yeah, we heard reports that it wasn't good, so they, we called Heather Blakely, I didn't, but someone had called and, they went out and, one of the pipes had rolled, someone had hit one of the pipes that was off into the gutter, and she was mad that they shouldn't be there. But you have to understand, it's a construction site at this point, and they weren't on the road, and if you hit them, you went off the road, so she was upset. But there's also 5,700 feet of LF of 2-inch trench repair. So they're repairing the road, doing trench repair. And the upcoming work is continue installing pipe, hydrants and service corporations. They put a hydrant in the wrong place. So they're gonna leave it there and just put another one, it'll be a service hydrant. They misread or did something, but anyway, it's another hydrant. The more hydrants, the better, so. They're gonna, August 20th to 24th, they're gonna continue installing pipe and Berry Corner Road hydrants, service corps, compaction testing and temporary trench repair, paving on Friday. And they're gonna have a second crew now to get things going, so they're gonna have another crew. And they're gonna begin installing services to Berry Corner Road up to H-foot road. And there's gonna be tree removal, clearing, and grubbing being done. Work within the wetland buffer zones will require erosion control modifications, which they'll be working on. And the PRV vault installation will be in December. And the winter shutdown then restart in March, weather permitting. So that's just a quick update. And I will forward this, if I haven't already, to all the board members. I'll scan it and send it to you.
So in your estimation, are they on schedule, ahead of schedule?
Right now, they're ahead of schedule.
Good. For now. Until
For now, but they've done, there are less problems with rock, is what they said.
Right.
Soft, so they're able to impact it and get it out. So they're moving along quickly. You know, and they're very responsive. If they had an issue with the road, they came out, and Heather said she was very happy with their response. On a Sunday afternoon, someone came out and they took care of the issue.
And this is Ludlow Construction, you said?
Ludlow
Are they the
Construction.
overall, the overall contractor, or?
They won the bid, they're the contractor.
So they're subbing out some of the other work as they go? or-
Not right yet, no, I don't believe it. Maybe some of the tree work they're not going to do. They're not gonna be doing certain aspects,
Okay.
you know, that if they have to do blasting, which I don't think they would ever, then they'd sub that out. I don't think they'd do that. They have their own subs, and they will have to sub out some of the work. You know, they're gonna have to, you know, get a landscaper when they're doing all the roads, a paver, do all that stuff. But they, tell you, they're very, the owner of that company attends the meetings, and he's sharp, very sharp.
Good. Good to hear. Some good news, finally.
And he doesn't send anyone else, he comes himself.
Yeah.
That's great, yeah.
You know, sometimes they just, that's another job, just send someone there. No, he's there himself, he's very responsive, he's quick, and he's being, there's proper oversight, and it's coming along quite nicely, so.
Good.
What's the update on the pump station?
I know that they're working. I think they had a problem with a piece of equipment. A car struck a piece of equipment that was parked there off the road. The car went off the road and into the piece of equipment. So there were no skid marks, no braking or anything, so they had to replace that piece of equipment. So, but they're,
Was it an excavator?
yeah,
Oh,
So what happened to the vehicle that hit the excavator?
I don't think it's a vehicle anymore.
I
I
don't
was
think
gonna
one.
say,
So that was,
excavators don't move that easily.
I don't know if he was following his GPS and thought it was taking him down that road, but
Up to the golf course?
yes, but I've been by there. I don't personally have a recent update of what the situation is there, but I know they're moving along. They're quickly trying to get that in there before the end of the winter, you know,
Right.
before fall starts, and that way they'll have that finished. But
That contract was awarded to RHY.
RHY, that was there.
So it's a
Which
separate.
contract?
The pump station.
Pump
at
station.
Stearns.
And they're the ones that can go right through bedrock with their milling machine or whatever that they call it? Or do they have to
Well,
blast?
from my understanding, the majority of their work is above ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they did, you could see they did some tie-in over to Snake Hill Road.
Okay,
They
yeah.
did something over there.
Yeah, they cut the road right open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that pump station, I think basically they put some type of foundation structure in the ground and then it sits on top,
It's heavy, so.
yeah.
And the pump station is in place now?
No.
No, but it's,
I
I
know
believe
it-
it's getting close.
The engineering from the time that they had the final plan till the time that it was ready to ship to site was 3 months or something,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, we don't get the weekly updates from them on this.
Right.
But the pump station is not essential for the water line for ExxonMobil. It is essential for H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road,
Mhm.
and Eleanor Lane. They need that pump station.
Yeah, because they're going up in elevation, what,
Yes.
80 or 100 feet or
Yeah.
something like that or more?
And they'll have to use pressure reducing valves at the bottom because the pressure was very high, so they can safely work on it. But hopefully that comes along quickly. And there was a gentleman who asked to be tied in past the point of time, and Mary Jude from the DEP said that if there's money available, they will be tied in, or they can tie in themselves if not. But I believe there will be money available for him to be tied in.
Good,
So
that's great.
I think that the DEP wants anyone, if they're there and it's part of it, and there's funding available, not to go by, if there's still, even though the time limit is up, ultimately half that money is from the DEP, it's from the state taxpayers, so they certainly want to make sure that anyone, even though it's past due and they've been notified and notified and notified, they still would want that tied in, so.
Yeah, good.
So.
Well, Jim, while you're on it, you're going over your, any other reports? that-
Yeah, we have an issue with, I received a letter from the DEP stating an issue with ETR Labs, revoked effective immediately. No analytical measurements performed by ETR Laboratories may be submitted to the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, where the department requires analysis to be conducted by a certified lab. The Mass DEP will immediately remove ETR Labs from its list of certified laboratories, and ETR Labs should not represent itself any way being currently certified by Mass DEP. The problem is they filed a court injunction appeal, so while the appeal is still going on, they remain on the list because of the appeal. The problem is if you look at their little box at the bottom, It says it does not meet the DEP drinking standards for testing.
Yeah,
Our
read that
regs
report.
state that you have to. So, you know, there's a little teeny box at the bottom, and that's what the gentleman who was specifically in charge of certifying labs called me. He said he is unable to, because of the litigation issues, really make a comment, but this is the reason why the certification was taken away, is because they cannot comply with the
And
standard.
I read that report. This
Yeah.
is the 3 or 4 page report.
Yes, and I did send it to everyone, and and you know what? We should have sent this out, and I take responsibility for that. We should have sent it out to as many people as possible right away, but the litigation happened quickly, and now you're stuck in the middle, even though it doesn't comply with our regs, because he read our regs. The DEP asked for our regs. We sent it to him, the ones you signed, and he said they do not comply with your standards or regulations for your well testing. Right now, they do remain on the list as a certified lab. Not that many people use them, but we did run into one situation that someone had used them.
So what would happen if somebody unknowingly, a resident goes to them, has testing, and then puts the results into this board?
Well-
We would not be able to
Well,
accept
based
the
on this letter
results?
from the DEP at the time, they told us not to.
Right.
Based on our, then it was appealed, so they remained on the list as a certified lab, although they're in appeal. And although he said it, and he called and said, based on our well regs, the Charlton well regs, it says at the bottom, does not comply with DEP standards.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, I'm very familiar with what happened in this situation, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it, right? So like, when it comes to what this board accepts and what's certified, there's an education to be learned about it. It's not either you're certified or you're not.
Mhm.
It's what meets parameter. There's 80-something different things in the water, chemicals in the water that we're looking for.
Compounds that you tested.
Compounds that we're testing. So the question is, what really is the problem here, right? That's what we want to know. Is it safe or is it not safe? With this particular company, I tried to find out what's wrong. I heard through the grapevine that there potentially may have been some fraud. I don't know that to be true, but that might be the case. I also heard that that company had spent over $500,000 on a piece of equipment, state of the art, and that the state is not familiar with that piece of equipment and is not going to accept those results from that equipment because they're not caught up with the technology. So I've heard different things. Now, when you talk about what is actually allowed in our town, if you look at the different compounds, there's so many different levels at that, and I think if this board is gonna, if we're gonna dig into this, and I think we should get a well-rounded education on it from a professional or a group of professionals. I know, Gary, you specialize in water, you may,
I'm not a lab expert.
But
I would not tell you. But it's
I know.
it's a certification.
It's-
The state holds that certification, and
But what do they certify?
they certify the lab, and they certify the lab for each of the methods they're running. So, for example, you run a coliform bacteria test. That's method ABC. So they'll certify that lab on method ABC for bacteria. For drinking water, it's 524.2. They'll be certified for 524.2. The same exact test you can run in a wastewater sample is an 8260. They might be certified for 8260, but not certified for 524.2 drinking water.
Right.
Same test, same results, different detection limits. Same machine. So the state certifies the lab for all of the different types of tests they run, and it's all listed. So if the town of Charlton's regs say you must be a state certified lab, and then the town of Charlton says you have to test for these 30 different parameters, whatever test they're using for those 30 parameters would have to be a state certified method and certified by and approved by that lab.
I also,
Just a quick question. So if they're not, if that box approving, saying DEP has given their approval, if they're not, haven't given the approval, how can this board accept anything from them?
I also want to point out, and again,
Even if we're right to do it?
Yeah, I-
Legally, how could we do it?
I want to point out that, and this may be the answer to that question, but the state certifications is for public water supplies. That state does not control private water supplies. This
Okay.
board does. So this board refers to the state as
Right.
guidelines,
Right.
but it is not law. But I'm not saying to accept it, not to accept it. I have no opinion as to it, and what I'm saying is, I think if we want to dig into it, we should hear from some of the professionals in the trade, so the three of us get a better understanding of what's going on, because I think it's at a deeper level than I certainly know, and I know, Gary, what you just said, feeds us into that, but I looked into the whole thing, and all of a sudden it was like, that's above my head, and it's like, there's a lot going on there.
I agree.
And technically, or legally, they are allowed, because Jim suggested what the letter was on January 31st. There was also a rebuttal letter that came out after that and said, to make things clear, they are legal, or there was a letter that said something to that effect.
No, it was legal, if I may.
Yes.
When we received this, it was quite clear in bold letters.
Yes,
So what do?
right.
They're not certified lab.
Yep.
So, you're not, apples are apples. It says in our well regs, which they do not, and Matt's absolutely right. They told me specifically, the DEP does not mandate or have any control of the private well regs. They specifically, but in our well regs, we specifically say we will adopt DEP standards for acceptability, period, in there. And that's why, when they talked to me, they're in the middle of litigation. The owner of ETR called screaming. He was very upset with me. That you have to accept it, this is in litigation where it's currently, and he was right, they are currently on, but this letter said they were not. So what do? We follow the DEP guidelines for drinking water standards. So it's hard to say, yeah, we can accept ETR because you're back on the list, when at the bottom, they're clearly defined that they do not meet DEP's drinking water standards. In our well regs, it says you have to. So it was we want to make sure that people have their water tested. It's certainly accurate, and I think
Yeah.
that's why we had Gary do that, because there's always that question of, and especially labs. Some people don't trust certain labs, and we want to make sure that lab, and this gentleman from the DEP who's in charge of certifying the labs indicated to me they are not up to standards and should not be used, but currently, on the record, they're still, because of litigation, back on that list.
Through an appeal.
Yeah.
Through the appeal.
Right.
So I was stuck in a situation, and the poor gentleman came in with the lab testing. He had no idea. They're not advertising out there, and
Right.
certainly it became a situation of, does it affect public health or safety or the environment? And you have to look at it that way.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, in all fairness, because Kathleen said, one of you said, what do you do if somebody uses them by mistake? Well, right now, this board hasn't made any comment one way or the other. So if someone spent
Correct.
the money and come in with a result from that company, I think it should be accepted. Now, if this board says, let's put a hold on this company until we figure out, we get educated ourselves as a group, or we hear a finding from DEP, then that may cover our tail from the Board of Health. And so if somebody comes in after today's date or whatever day we decide on it, now at least Jim has something that says, no, on this date the board said they're not gonna accept these results. And again, I don't have an opinion on this one way or another, I don't know enough about it, but if we're gonna not allow that company to give results for the water test, and I think this board should make a ruling on that, and then anything that was tested prior to today should be grandfathered, if you will, and any new data that would come after today wouldn't be accepted.
Jim?
Yeah, I just had a question, just so that I can understand this better through the chair.
Mhm.
That, if our regulations say already that we do comply with DEP certification, then what does it matter? I mean, if somebody comes in at any time with this lab work, they're not in compliance with DEP, so we can't accept it.
They are in compliance. The follow-up letter to that letter says that while the appeal is going on, that
Oh,
they
they're
are in compliance. So we would have to accept it, unless this
Okay.
board decides
Okay,
not to
okay,
do that.
okay. Well,
Yes.
all right.
Only to that, Matt, if you read the bottom of ETRs, they say they do not meet the drinking water standards set forth by the DEP. It says right on it,
On ETS,
on ETR's lab report. So seeing that, how do we in good faith and responsible, and the people who don't really know, the layperson, say, okay, ETR labs, no problem. When we don't even, they're not even testing to our well regs.
well, if it says it on their
It does.
well report, then that's our key right there to say, not accepted.
And God forbid I never looked at that. No one has, because it's been come in with that little thing at the bottom, and he said that's what triggered them to go to that lab. That note at the bottom, because they didn't want to lie, so he went and inspected the lab and decertified them based upon that box at the bottom that says they do not meet the DEP's drinking water standards for drinking water. So that, he said, alone, without this letter, should be enough for this board, because they do not regulate private wells, to say, in the best interest of the people having these tests, that these may not be accurate, so we cannot accept them.
So what if the lab eliminates that sentence? Now what?
There's a legal issue, they have to put it there, he said. That's why they had it there, that's the whole thing, and it's not even based upon DEP standards, on our own. He took our regs, he said, I reviewed these 3 times. He said, they do not meet your well regs, Charlton well regs that are signed recently by this board. They do not meet it, he said, so you don't even have to go by this letter due to litigation. That bottom box would prohibit them from this board accepting them.
Do you have one of those?
It's in one of the files, yes, but I'd have to look.
No.
There's hundreds.
Yeah, okay.
Andrea and Kim went through them all to find them, and they all say it at the bottom. I'll forward you the,
I think this board should take action on it in the name of public health and safety to the residents. I think we should take action on it. It's just a matter of doing it legally and not getting ourselves in trouble.
I agree.
And, you know, so that's why I'm saying, if there's litigation going on, well, then this board says, while litigation is pending, we're not gonna accept these results. We have the right to do that,
It
I
could
would
be
say.
as simple as that. I think that way we've got ourselves covered. We're also adhering to public health and safety.
well, when we received this letter, it doesn't say, all it says is, it's very, very strict that they're not in compliance. So, you know, being in due diligence as a director, I gotta say, well, we can't, even if we didn't have a meeting and I sent it forward to the board, how I, good faith, accept this letter from a family that wants to move in there with kids, when it says at the bottom, we don't even meet the drinking water standards for testing.
Yeah.
So
Right,
that's
so-
the problem.
Right, so.
But then
So-
the second letter came in from DEP.
That's because of litigation. They had to legally, because they're trying to protect themselves during the litigation, once the appeal is done, they had to remain on there. But like you said, the DEP does not monitor or have any control over private drinking wells. This board does. This board protects the residents of Charlton from contamination, and they assure that their tests that come in, that are accurate.
I think we definitely need to ensure the health and the well tests of residents. Now, I like your idea, though, if somebody's come through in the past, I don't know.
Well, we did on one,
Grandfathered.
because there was nothing. It was nothing, like Matt said, there was nothing pertinent in here in the test that was even an indication. There was no,
Yeah, for us
It
to
was
go
clean.
back and say, oh, by the way, we got a letter and you got.
and they
to go out and
immediately
spend
said, you know what,
dollars."
we didn't know, and they didn't, then we're gonna use someone else from now on, because we really don't want to have an issue. But,
So, all right, so I don't know where everybody else is with this, but.
but it is a board's decision. But if you draft a well regs and you expect us in this department and myself as the director to make sure that when the girls come in, they refer to the well regs, and it doesn't meet them, then we really don't have any choice but not to accept them.
Correct. Especially,
So, We
unless
can't,
and until.
it's not a tit for tat
they-
thing, it's strictly that you said you do not comply with DEP drinking water standards, then our regulations say you have to. It's a moot point,
Right, so
even
until
without this
ETR
letter.
Until ETR can get this resolved with DEP and have DEP say you're certified for.
And they very well may come back into compliance,
Right,
like Matt said.
and
They,
let's hope they get it resolved, but I think in the meantime, I think we should not accept, going forward, we should not accept results through this company until this is resolved.
and I will be on top of this to make sure that, it's in litigation, who knows how long it could take, I don't know, but the DEP was, you know, I called them with the person standing here and said, does this letter still hold weight? And she said, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Then someone else called me, and then we went back and forth, and finally the gentleman that certifies the lab got on the phone, said, I want your well regs, I want to read them. He read them in detail, he said, they're very good regs, by the way, so I'm going to let the board know, he said, you have very good well regs. He said, and they do not currently meet your well regs.
So there we have it. Kathleen, anything further?
Well, is there a motion?
No, no, not yet, but I don't want to cut anybody off. I know where I'm going with this. I'm thinking we definitely need to not allow results to be from this lab to come in to this office and for somebody's private well or public water supply for that matter.
I think if something does come in, I would ask the board to look at it, and a case scenario would, I don't think it will, but some of these are old, these tests, but usually they come in pretty quick. But I don't have it took us a long time to find ETR testing information. We pulled all kinds of files to find that, and I will send that to the board, that box at the bottom, it's on all the information, but it's not up to me, it's up to this board, what you want to do. We just want to make sure that, you know, there was a lot of confusion that day. I felt bad for everyone, but, you know.
So, Mr. Chairman, you were on a roll with a motion, and I was gonna so moved to make it into a motion. For discussion, I wanted to add the stipulation that while it's pending the appeal process until a final outcome of that process is determined, we put this company on hold, starting with any test dates from August 21st, 2018 moving forward.
Correct. I'm good with that.
Need a second to that motion?
So, yeah, I seconded, but just for discussion, I don't think it's necessary to do that, because I think we're covered, by the stuff that Jim has said. However, I don't think it hurts, so.
Yeah, I think we need to have it official.
I
It
think-
should be.
I think it gives our office staff a little bit of ammunition too, because when it comes in and somebody spent some money and the arguing starts, our office staff could say, the board's voted on it, it's black and white.
Right.
Because, to
Yeah.
be honest, I don't see them all, and the girls are strictly, if they see something, they pull out the regs, and I don't look at them all, so they're only going by the regs, so it does, like Matt said, it does provide clear guidance that there's no confusion in the future until they can clear their case up with the DEP and get back in good standings.
One last question, what's the probability that some results, just based on your history here,
Very low.
very low? So if this is gonna happen, it's gonna be one or possibly two for the
Yeah.
6 months or whatever it's gonna take.
We
to
do not
resolve
see
the
ETR labs enough, that's why it took us so long to find
Okay.
the report, and
Okay.
then when we had.
Furthermore, if, well, I don't know if this would count, but didn't DEP specifically look at those results?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we got the green light from DEP regardless.
Regardless, we did, because they, like Matt said, they do not have control over private wells. This board sets those regulations, we do the enforcement in the office.
So if our office comes into a case where someone may have been grandfathered and we get a lab that's predated till tonight, we could always ask DEP if they could examine it to make sure they were comfortable with it, because that's what we did in the last one, and then everyone's
Good.
covered.
Yeah,
Then everybody knows.
Yeah, because we had to do our homework, because we take some responsibility too when we get this, but we took it for the word of the DEP, you know, that this was it, they're not a certified lab, so it sets up a flag of whoa, you know,
Mhm.
but certainly it's, I don't see that many from ETR.
good, all right. So we have a motion and a second to not allow lab results from ETR or well test until litigation is complete and DEP certifies them for.
And notification to the board of
Notification.
that, so you can,
Right.
you'll have to vote on changing what you voted on tonight.
Correct. So in the interim, then, it would be nothing until further notice.
But if I do receive anything, I will notify the board,
Correct.
so you're
Yep.
aware that we have
Yep.
something, and if you wanna take a look at it yourselves,
That's
that's-
fine.
that's
Yeah,
the
please
thing
keep
to
us
do.
advised. So we've got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Passes.
All right,
Thank you.
Can we stay on that topic?
Yeah, sure.
So now that the vote's over, does this board want to get an education on that whole process?
Sure.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah,
I think we should set up a meeting. I know probably at least two people that seem to have an education on it that would be willing to come to the board and let
Perfect.
us understand.
we'll put them on the agenda.
and the DEP said if you'd like them to come down, the DEP would be, the certification gentleman said if you need a better explanation for your board. But the problem is, he said now it's in litigation, you'd have to wait till after.
That's fine. In the interim, by all means, Matt.
He would explain what the process is for certification, but it's totally up to the board.
Yeah, could we have a closed meeting for that? Probably not.
Probably not. There's plenty of experts around that know way more than
Yeah, I
mean,
think just a general informational, educational type of.
It would be
you know,
nice
where
to
we-
hear from DEP though.
Yeah, but at the same time, we don't want to get them in tiptoeing around certain.
No, but that's
issues.
their job. I mean, they set the regs. The board adopts a private well, but certainly, I think in our well regulation, he said they were very well written, but
Mhm.
it's something that you continually need to educate yourself.
Furthermore, if we ever ask DEP to come, we don't have to be specific
No.
on any company.
It would be,
Correct.
it would be.
The
take a look at
process.
The process
General.
itself on certification of a lab. Don't be specific, but
Nope.
you're right. And I think that would help us in the office also.
Right.
Because we look at results, we get all kinds of things that come by the desk, and we can only go by what the board, the approved latest well regs, you made changes to them,
Yeah.
so.
If you can get somebody in for the next meeting, all the better,
Okay. I can work on it.
okay?
And we'll figure out a meeting date and see if we can pull it off, and then maybe request DEP,
Mhm.
see if we can do it, or maybe see what DEP's schedule is. Maybe we might
Yeah.
make a meeting to accommodate them,
Separate,
or.
yeah, sure. Whatever works for them.
I like as Matt said, education is always good.
Just to play devil's advocate, if the chances of us running into this issue are, what I'm hearing is very minuscule. There's a lot of things that we might be educated about. I'm not sure. I guess I'm not convinced that this is the best use of our time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In the little education that I got on it, I believe that the way our process is in this office right now does not always compare apples to apples. And I think if we had an education on what gets sampled and what's accepted and what's not accepted, I think it may let us look at some inconsistencies that we have set up right now.
With our own regulations.
I think so. From what I'm understanding, there's a bigger picture going on, and we're not water experts, so we don't know. But then in hearing some of the nitty gritty in it, it was like, yeah, we're not even close. And I think that's what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
for that reason. But I understand what you're saying. I'm not necessarily saying meeting after meeting.
But it can be, in other words, the information can be translated into, we can use it basically
I would-
with our own policies.
I would think.
With a copy of our regulations right in front of us as well, while we're, you know, we could study them beforehand and then.
I'm sorry, that makes sense. So, thank
Keep,
you.
keep in mind the DEP reviewed the regulations and said they're very good.
Yeah. Okay, well, either way, we
Yeah.
can,
They can be-
I'm all for more education on this
When,
because.
can I just ask, when were the regulations last, reviewed and changed?
About 5-6 meetings ago.
Yeah, earlier this year.
Yep.
Oh, so they're
Pretty
up to
recent.
date.
Yep.
Well, yes and no. We looked at some of them. We made some changes and we tightened some things up.
Right.
But we didn't get into any of this part of it.
No, this was not. This is a whole different.
So then this part of it, when was that looked at before?
Never?
Never?
Yeah.
Since they were put in place?
Are you going down the road of contamination limits and so forth? Is that where you're headed with this? Or?
No, I'm more talking about the certification. So
Okay.
you say so-and-so certified, but what are they certified for? Because each compound gets its own certification. I think you can go on the website and look.
Each test, yeah, this whole thing, I just read it, it's primarily related to bacteria analysis.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So,
That's why they approved, because it wasn't bacteria analysis. Not to interrupt.
and
but
that's
why.
exactly, when you do a potability test, you test metals, you test volatile organic compounds, you test bacteria. Those are the three primary groups of things. But each of those metals may be done, if it's done by a different method, certain metals are done by a 200.7, certain are done by a different method. So each of those methods is a certified method. So just because you guys get a test and Andrea looks at it, she needs to know where to look to say that all of the tests are certified methods approved by DEP, because your reg says the method needs to be approved. So it's not as simple as the car is registered. Every single tire needs to be certified, every
Yep.
part.
Okay.
So she needs to know where to
So
look,
the-
and
so
Jim
the
needs to know where to
result-
look.
right.
I
Quite
think that's
detailed.
where Matt's going, is
Okay.
you guys basically need an education on reading lab reports and understanding the certification process. You don't need an education on how the certificate, the behind the doors of the analytical part. That'll go over all of our heads way too quick. But you need to understand what the certification means, where it is on the lab report, how many certifications there should be on a standard potable drinking water test.
Okay.
And I guess where I was going with it is, okay, if you're certified for bacteria or whatever, but they're testing for something else, is it legal? You know what I mean? Because are they certified for what they're testing at that time? You could be a certified lab for X, Y, and Z, and we'd be testing A, B, or C, and,
Exactly.
they're certified lab, but they're certified for X, Y, and Z, but we're testing A, B, and C.
Certified for the method that's required by your reg.
So I just think it's a little
Yeah.
deeper that if we got to hear it once and maybe it would, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about. We might not do anything about it, but I thought it would be fair for this board to at least get a once-over on it, so we had a little understanding.
Okay, I'm good.
I'm good with that.
You all set?
Yep.
Yeah, we're all set with that.
I'll try and go fast, but I just wanted to let the board know that I'd like to thank Steve's Repair, specifically Steve Sylvester. There was a family at 45 Flint Road, a very nice family, the Banks family, that were gone for about 6 to 8 weeks without a well pump. And the insurance company, I contacted them and said, why haven't you paid for the claim?
Lightning strike or?
It was a
what?
lightning strike.
Okay.
And he said, we will. I said, because I'm ready. The poor family has 4 or 5 children, 5 boys, and living in a house hauling water every day. And I was alerted by Ann Salou, who went there for issues with animals. So I got right on the phone. I told them I was going to have the people out of the house. It's not, they have no toilets. They have no flushing facility. They lost their business because they ran a daycare out of there.
Mm.
And Steve Sylvester spent till like 8 o'clock at night. I had the insurance company call him and he stopped what he was doing, made time in his day, and made it happen for them and got them water. So I'd like to let the board know that Steve Silvesca went above and beyond and helped out this family
And they were able to stay in their house.
and they were able to stay in their house because of him at last minute notice, because he cares, and him and his wife are great people, and they helped this family out. So
That's
I
great.
it's great,
We like this
a
family.
good
Great
story.
guy.
Kudos to them.
Yeah, and kudos to them. So I think this let this board know that that's what happened with that, and that's a sad situation to see.
Yeah.
You know, I go home and turn on my faucet like anybody else, and there's a family with 5 children because of a well pump and an insurance mix-up that wasn't paid. So the guy in the insurance company said, I'm going to personally call him and tell him, just do the job and send us the bill. And he did. He called Steve and said, because Steve had to get some, I think he would have went anyway. His wife said, we may have an old pump, but, you know, they did a good thing. So Steve and his wife Jamie, very good people. Steve was out there until 8 o'clock at night, and he did get it going for them, and the family was very, very happy.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
so that's a good note. There are good people out there working hard to help out other people. So I only facilitated being aggressive with the insurance company and told him, listen, I'm going to put them out at your dime, and I'm going to issue an order of condemnation on the house and inform the board. And he said, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's get him a pump. Let's get him a pump.
Mhm.
So, but then trying to get someone to install, I guess there were like 15 or 20 different houses struck, according to other people that I talked to, with their well pumps struck by lightning strikes. So they were all backed up, but Steve Silvesca made time, and I wanted to thank him, and I did call him and thank him personally, and he's did a great job. So just wanted to let the board know that.
Thank you, Jim.
So also working with a gentleman who lives on Wilson Lane. I think Matt, I spoke to you about him. He did come in. We had a long discussion. Even though ExxonMobil is using Wilson Lane, it's only to facilitate the municipality to shoot down that road. But then I looked into it further. He has contamination of salt, so I notified the DOT, and they've agreed that he's eligible for them to hook him up to the water if ExxonMobil puts it there. So he is going to get a water line on likely, and it's not going to cost him anything.
Nice. More good news.
More good news, but it was a little bit rough there in the beginning because he was quite upset. He thought that he should automatically, and you know, I told him I didn't get a chance to speak to ExxonMobil, even though the water line's going there. And she explained more. Johnson spoke to him also that it's only to facilitate the best route. But he's close to the Mass Pike, and they had a problem across the street, and his pipes are generally clogged with salt. So the DOT said yes, he is eligible because they just did behind Sims Racquetball Club, Health and Rec. They just replaced another well and gave him town water because his salt was bad. Then he didn't want to decommission his well after he signed it, and I told him that, you know, your well is not good anyway. It's so chucked with salt, and he agreed. So because the DOT doesn't want to even, they want to make sure that well's not used because they're drawing off all the salt, and it's so high that he couldn't even run the water in his house. So they did hook him up. So that's Upham Road, I believe it's.
Upham Farms.
Yeah, Upham Farms. So that's that. So two good. You know, the people are getting water. It's from ExxonMobil. It's from Casella, the Southbridge, or it's from the Mass Highway, which is DOT. They are doing their due diligence when it's high in salt. So this gentleman was very happy I called him today. So I've been quite busy in here. We had a discussion today with the state in regards to extension of authority to camps, and they're having an issue with the change in the code. So we're going to have a meeting here with the state. It's specifically for the 2 specialty camps. One's in Oxford, and one's in Charlton. Camp Joslin, it's a special needs camp, and they want more authority to make sure there's physicians and licensed people there, and the doctor's not giving her authority to someone of lesser care under her direction, which she has the right to do, but they're saying that the delegation of authority doesn't lie outside a hospital setting. Then there's a problem with all our camps, because if you have a specialty need, then there needs to be a doctor there. These camps are not going to be able to afford to have a doctor there for one person. So it's a big discussion today. So we're going to meet with Steve Hughes, the Director of the Department of Public Health, and he's going to come in and we're going to discuss this issue. And that would fall within the board's purview when you do the inspection, that how do you tell, there would be no camp. Camp Joslin and would be gone, and Camp Barton would be gone in Oxford, because if they need a doctor there to work under the scope of their license and not being able to delegate it to an RN or to a paramedic, there's no way to operate. They all have to be tested throughout the night. So that's a big issue for us, and that's a hot topic right now with the state. So they'll be meeting here. I'll certainly let the board know when we meet with the state to discuss that, but that really affects all children's camps throughout the Commonwealth of Mass.
How hard can they push that? Can they overrule whatever we decide? They can.
No.
So, no?
If we meet the minimum standards, it's local authority. State does not hold authority over local. It's this board's decision, and it would be a decision that the doctor's sitting there, you got 3 doctors, they're in charge, they're there all the time, and they have 3rd year, 2nd year nursing students that have taken a specialized class just to specialize in diabetes, and they're gonna be diabetic nurses when they leave there. So they feel that they're in adequate hands, but there's been an incident, and they've corrected that. There are mistakes that can happen anywhere. You're in the middle of the night, it's a dark room, you're trying to make calculations on what the medication would be. But certainly, nothing has happened in Charlton. So I just want to let the board know that. But we are one of the only 2 specialized camps like that in all of New England. So they're needed. So we're going to have a meeting about that. I don't know how we could question the doctor's right to delegate authority. I've worked under doctors' delegation of authority, whether it is in all the paramedics in Charlton work under a doctor's physician that signs off on their license, which allows them to work in the town of Charlton, which is not a hospital setting, it's outside. But so I just want to let you know I had a 45-minute discussion with the state today about that one specific issue. So we will have a meeting. And also, quickly, I was voted again for Region 2, 74 communities, the FEP Steering Committee, Executive Committee. I was voted the Vice Chair of the Executive Committee. So I just want to let the board know I do attend those meetings.
When do you have time for all this?
We find time. And I was also a voting member for the DPH. It's called LSAC. We meet in Framingham. I'm still on that board. And the Region 2 has 2 votes for all the money that's distributed for the Department of Public Health. A lot of it's going for opioid, a lot of things. I know that we'd like to direct them in a different direction, but there's very limited funds, and it's going down every year. They're taking away funding. So, but just wanted to keep you updated, and that's brief synopsis of what happened in the last couple weeks.
No other issues with camps this summer?
Camps are done. I inspected a camp today, Challenger Camp.
Yep.
It's a soccer camp. It's on Bond Road. We had an issues with them complying with the new regs.
Yep.
So we met with a bunch of towns to help them into compliance, and he ended up getting approved in Shrewsbury, Leicester, and Charlton, but he didn't have time in Oxford because he couldn't meet the regulations, the new regulations that have changed. So we sent him the changes, he didn't read them, so we got him back in order, and safe to say that 60 kids today showed up at the soccer camp in Charlton.
Good.
Under
No
proper
issues.
supervision, no issues,
Good.
very good, well run, so.
Good. Good.
That's the last camp of the year. Camp Joslin, so everyone knows, is closed for the year, so there's no issues there. But I'll keep the board updated. And that's all I have.
Okay. I think that's it, but before we go, I did want to, if we can come up with a date for our next meeting in September.
Totally up to you.
3 weeks, 4 weeks? What do you think?
I'm easy, whatever makes sense to you.
I like the 3-week program.
3 weeks? I'm for that myself. I don't know where that puts us, but
3 weeks from now is the 11th.
11th of September?
Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3. 3 weeks is the 11th, yeah.
September 11th?
9/11.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
Works for me.
It's up to you. It's your
Perfect.
meeting. We'll set the agenda.
Tentatively, yeah.
Okay.
And Matt may have some folks that can
Yeah,
come
let-
on in and talk about water too, so.
Yep, well, let me know.
If we can get a hold of somebody, put them on the agenda for new business. Other than that, I think we're probably good to go.
I know the particular person I was talking about has a vacation coming up. I don't know when it's coming, but
Okay.
it's getting close, so I don't know if it's gonna interfere with that date.
Okay,
Okay.
well,
We're going to Nova Scotia, so we'll have to see. I think they go for 10 days, and I don't think they've left yet, so it may
okay.
may come right in that
impact
time.
it. What would happen if we have it 3 weeks from the 11th? Yeah,
I'd be probably
Okay.
home run.
okay. Good. Either works.
Okay.
Okay, motion to dismiss.
So made?
Second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is over. It is 7:45.